approach tomorrow. It's the first time it's been done, getting our productivity commissions to work together. Whilst I don't think we will be able to respond at depth and in detail to all of the recommendations of that report, I'm looking forward to discussing that report with Prime Minister Key and what work we can do based on it. In addition, I'm looking forward to talking to Prime Minister Key about a set of challenges and issues that Australia and New Zealand face in our world, including the challenge of people smuggling in our region, the future outlook for Fiji, the work that we are doing in Afghanistan, the challenges and opportunities we face in this Asian century, and also the work that lies beyond the Ramsay drawdown in the Solomon Islands. So there is a lot to be working through and talking about. Tomorrow too, I will have an opportunity to pay my respects at the Queenstown Memorial Gate. The centenary of Gallipoli is fast approaching, and this is a centenary that we will share together, the Anzac spirit being celebrated and marked in both of our nations. I will be able to announce who has the winning design for the Australia Memorial that will be constructed in Wellington as part of the way in which we mark 2015. I think we will also be able to spend just a little bit of time talking about the opportunities from the Cricket World Cup in 2015. So there's a lot to do and I'm looking forward to it.
Will you be telling John Key or alleviating any concerns about New Zealand citizens treated as second class in Australia when it comes to social welfare benefits and the like?
Well, we have because of our special relationship, we have arrangements for New Zealanders that have a generosity associated with them that is not given to any other nationals from any other country when they come to Australia. First and foremost, New Zealanders can come to Australia and access our labour market without restrictions. We don't confer that benefit on any other nation. New Zealanders who live in Australia are also entitled to a range of benefits, things like the family tax benefit, baby bonus, access to Medicare,
so
the pharmacy. Well, I'm just going through in relation to the terminology of your question. I think it is important to understand that New Zealanders in Australia do get access to these benefits: Medicare, PBS, family tax benefit, baby bonus, to name just a few. So it is a relationship we don't accord to any other nationals from any other part of the world.
Prime Minister, why does the government pay for its promises when the receipts from the mining tax are so low compared to the estimates? And why weren't these figures released yesterday?
Well, I think the Treasurer's dealt with all of this in Australia. As we were in receipt of some advice about taxpayer confidentiality, and the Treasurer's taken appropriate advice about whether or not these figures could be released. The MRRT is a profits-based tax, and we saw a big reduction in commodity prices last year. In some sectors, commodity prices are now starting to track back up. But there was a big hit to commodity prices last year. As a profits-based tax, you'd expect that to show in the figures.
So what's your response, Prime Minister, to the sports scandal that's erupted back home? And also, what will you be telling John Key about involvement, if any, of New Zealand teams and players?
Well, I don't have any message for Prime Minister Key. Prime Minister Key, of course, can have a briefing, but I personally don't have any message for Prime Minister Key on this matter. On the question of the things that were revealed yesterday, I think all sports fans, including me, find this pretty sickening. We are people who go and, sit at grounds or watch sport on TV and marvel at amazing sporting prowess. We cheer on the deeds, and the sense that anything we've seen has actually been fuelled by banned substances, I think would be pretty sickening for sports fans. It's pretty sickening for me.
Do you think some of the details should be released, though? Because at the moment there are concerns on both sides of politics that all sports in Australia are being tarred with the same brush at the moment.
Well, this is for the agency, the expert agency involved, to deal with and work through. Of course, I understand people want more information. We've had the Crime Commission working with our anti-doping agency, and they will need then to take the next steps to get all people the rest of the information.
Would you like to see it released?
Look, I don't think it is for me, when we were talking about agencies like the Crime Commission and an anti-doping agency, to be issuing instructions. I think they need to get the work done the best way they can with all of the expertise that they bring to bear.
Would you remind us that the promised the key to ask for assistance from the Australians in terms of identifying New Zealanders or New Zealand sports teams that have been affected by the doping scandal? Will that be made available to him?
Prime Minister Key can certainly get all of the information he wants, and if there's any assistance Australia can provide, of course we would provide it.
Prime Minister, the government has talked a lot about sharing the benefits of the boom, but isn't the reality now that you've spent money that you simply don't have?
Let's just be very factual here about what is happening in our economy. I spoke extensively about these matters at the National Press Club last week. We came out of the global financial crisis strong. We all pulled together to get that done. That's a good thing. We're in a phase of economic change now where the high Aussie dollar is bearing down on a number of industries and affecting corporate profitability, and we need to keep working to make sure we've got jobs and growth and a diversified economy for the future. What we've seen in the resources sector, we are moving towards the peak of the investment boom, and then beyond that, ability is obviously impacted to the nation with the minerals resource rent tax, is that we wanted to tax profits in our minerals sector in the most efficient way, that is to take tax when they are at their most profitable. There was always going to be volatility in the MRRT as a result, but I still think it's absolutely fair that at the peak of the profit cycle, Australians see tax from mineral wealth that is dug out of the grounds we all own and the grounds we all share.
So if you factor in the royalty rebates and the cost of administering the tax, then could it come back down to zero in terms of revenue?
Well, the figures have been released today, and the architecture of the tax is as I've described it.
But don't you see that you'll need almost a miracle to reach that $2 billion projected profit that the mining tax will
The figures have been released today. The
it's
tax,
a long way from $2 billion though.
well, the tax works as a profits-based tax. That's the appropriate design. We've always said we wanted an efficiently based tax, and that is a tax that takes when mining is at its most profitable. Now, I'd remind people, if we just want to go through this debate, when this debate first started, what we were told in the national discourse, and let's remind ourselves of it, we were told by the other side of politics that the existence of a profits-based tax in mining would destroy the mining industry and everybody would be unemployed. That was what we were told. It's an irresponsible scare campaign, which once again has been proven to be an irresponsible scare campaign. We deliberately designed a profits-based tax. Last year, we saw some volatility in the global economy. We saw some concerns at that point about the economy of China. It had an impact on commodities prices. Now, as we move into this year, I think all of the doomsayers about China have been proved wrong, and we are seeing good economic conditions and growth in China, and we're continuing to see good demand for our resources exports, and we've seen some recovery in commodities prices. A profits-based tax is purpose designed so that when you get these cycles, including very quick changing cycles like the one we've seen over the last 6 to 9 months, it can respond.
Prime Minister, we're told that the science centres will be on the agenda when you talk with Prime Minister Key tomorrow. Will Australia be asking New Zealand to take asylum seekers out of Nauru, as happened under the Howard government?
Look, we'll have something to say when we've actually had the leaders' discussion, but certainly people smuggling is on the agenda for the discussion.
Well,
We'll go here and then here.
Just back to the issue of
This matter, relationship with current arrangement New Zealand in Australia has its citizens come to Australia and enjoy those entitlements or benefits.
I'll just take you back to the sports and drug scandal at the moment. Would you agree with some of the commentary made today that the release of report, which did not have a lot of detail in it, has a resolution to it, so people who have done nothing wrong can be assured that they're not going to be caught up in the muck of it all?
I think it's important that the Crime Commission and the Anti-Doping Agency go about the work and public release of the work in the way that they think is best. I can understand people involved in sporting codes who are now anxious to see the next bit. I can well and truly understand that. But I think we've got to let the experts get on with the job. As an individual, I'd have to say I've been pretty shocked by this material. If you'd asked me to, make a guess about doping in Australian sport, I wouldn't have intuitively come out with the work that the Crime Commission and the Anti-Doping Agency have. So we've already benefited from their hard work, their expertise, and they'll bring that to bear for the next bid.
Last one, guys. Just to describe the relationship with New Zealand.
Well, the best description I think of the relationship with New Zealand is the one I used when I had the very distinct honour of addressing the New Zealand Parliament in 2011. It is a relationship of family. There is a bond between Australia and New Zealand that is different to any bond that we share in any other part of the world. The very fact that it's fundamental to our soul and how we perceive ourselves. The legend of Anzac is part of us and it's part of New Zealand. That is, I think, showing us the depth of the bond that we feel together. So forged in history, here in contemporary times, and always here for the future.
Prime Minister, was your decision about the Tarkine, was your government's decision about the Tarkine just about winning votes, or what do you say to the Greens and other groups who are outraged by what's happened today?
First and foremost, these decisions are taken by Minister Burke as the appropriate decision maker under legislation, which is very, very specifically done. There are legal obligations here that Minister Burke has to acquit, and he exercises his judgment against those legal obligations.
Does it help you, though, to win that?
Well, I'd remind you, this is legal obligations, an appropriate decision maker having exercised that decision-making power. So it's a decision of Minister Burke under a piece of federal legislation, properly informed by the best of research. Thanks very much.
The Australian Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, speaking there in New Zealand. Over in New Zealand,